One day I did structural engineering. We got the truck that's in the back.
Hey, come pick me up. I'm coming on anyway.
That's a good sign. That's a good sign. Y'all be careful.
Let's go ahead and start. Had a couple prayer requests. Before we start, James Butts, he was taken to the hospital Sunday night. They had to put 2 stents in, and they really need to do a third. They decided probably to do it at that time. I think he's still bleeding, so he's still in the hospital. So they need to pray for him and Bonnie Overstreet. She's still in Southern Hills, still having a lot of issues too. It's ankle, right? Is her ankle that they're...
No, sugar levels.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I mean, she's got a lot of good knee problems, but she's not there for that. She's there because her sugar levels up.
Okay.
She's now diabetic, which she lots of people.
Okay. So we'll begin prayer, and then I'll get started. Father, we come to you this afternoon, this evening, Father, thanking you for the ability to come to you in prayer. And to God, specifically right now, had 2 that have asked us to pray for them tonight. So just be with James Butts and Bonnie. Father, James has been here the past 2 weeks, Father, and it's just been good to see the smile on his face. And he's just fought so many issues, Father. It's just heartbreaking that he's now facing another. So pray that you continue to be with him and be with Bonnie and just bring them both home soon, Father. Just be with the doctors and nurses that are attending to them. Just give them special wisdom and knowledge to know exactly what to do to take care of their challenges right now that they're having. And I ask this all in Jesus' name. Amen. I can tell you right now, I'm not a polished speaker like Mark, so that's why I've got this podium up here, and I've got these notes here. And I don't know how in the world Rob remembers all the dates and everything he remembered last Wednesday night. I mean, I may give you some dates. Teresa said, well, you should have asked me first, so I've always wondered, it may not be exactly right. So, I've been, you always get kind of nervous when you start thinking about, telling your life story. My buddy Gerald, he said, Rick, just tell your story. He said, everyone has a story that others need to hear. And that's so true. So many times we don't want to tell our stories because we don't want to reveal the darkness that we've had in our lives. Teresa told me the other day, she said she used to say to her mother, she used to say, Mama, just tell me something that you did bad or wrong in your life. And Teresa said she never would. And Teresa said it just made her feel just so imperfect because, it seemed like her mother was so perfect. Because, she didn't know anything, that she had done wrong in her life. So, it's good to be transparent. I've always tried to be transparent about my life and my past. I mean, it's not that I'm proud of anything, but I'm just a big believer in 2 Corinthians 1 that we comfort others with the same comfort that we were comforted with, and we went through the same thing. So how in the world can you know that I've experienced something that I can comfort you with if I don't reveal, what I've struggled with in life? And if it just helps one person, it's worth it. I was speaking at TYM several months ago, and I talked to them and told them, I'm nobody special. I'm just a man who's trying to get to heaven just like all you guys are. And I told them about an event back when I was 16 or 17 where I smoked marijuana. I came to the house that night and I dropped a fork and I jumped about 10 feet high. My dad didn't know what in the world was going on. So, but the thing is, after that, out of the corner of my eye, I saw a young lady making a beeline to me up there. And she came to me and she said, "Thank you for speaking to us tonight and letting us know, that you're not perfect either." And then she revealed to me, some issues that she was dealing with, and I tried to comfort her through those issues as well. So, it was worth revealing my thoughts because it let one person at least know that I'm not perfect and they can come to me with their imperfections. So, Henry Nolan, he's a Dutch priest who died years ago, once wrote, "The great illusion of leadership is to think that man can be led out of the desert by someone who's never been there." We've all had our desert life, our desert experiences. Some of them were created because of the mistakes and the choices we made, and some of them it's just life. But God can use those. The truth is, I should not even be standing here as an elder in the Lord's church, because of my past. So I say that to say that this is not really a story about me as much as it is about the transformation of my life because of Christ. And I am who I am, a shepherd of the Lord's church, owned by the grace of God. Ever since the fall in the Garden of Eden, God has constantly pursued those that He loves and were made in His image. I went on a wilderness journey in my Christianity for a lot of years. It started around 16 and didn't end until I was in my mid-50s. It's a long time. Again, I'm not proud of it, but it's a journey that I took. And looking back, there were so many opening and shutting of doors. There were so many instances. There were so many events that God was showing me He was still in control and still orchestrating my life, even though I wasn't doing my part, at that time. And I did a lot of. This has sort of been good because I've done nothing but think about all these things, and I did a lot of inward introspection during the preparation. And for many years, I blamed my dad or my mom for some of the decisions that I made in my life. While some of what they said and what they did had some impact on my life, as a grown adult, I chose to carry through with the decisions I made. I am accountable for those actions and not them. And whatever imperfections that they, it's funny. Once you go through parenthood, you realize your parents, they didn't do as bad as you thought they did. So anyway, this is my dad. I look at this picture. This is in Blakely, Georgia, in 1950. I guess he was in the 5th grade. Now look at that picture and think that in 8 years, he was going to be a husband and a wife. Because I was born in 1958. I mean, it's just hard to imagine that a child, a 5th grader, in 8 years would have that kind of responsibility on them. Today, people tend to get married a lot later than what they did back then. But I mean, him and my mom both, they were just really kids. when they got married. This year, this will be their 65th year of being married. You know, there's a lot of things about Dad that I don't want to be like. But even through his imperfections, as far as I know, he was faithful to my mom for 65 years up to this point. He quit school in the 9th grade, go help on the farm. Mom stayed in school, and when she graduated, they soon got married after that to one another. Mom became a Christian when after she married Dad. Her mother, her father, they never did become a Christian. And I think that's the thing that really hurt her the most whenever they passed. They passed within a year, maybe not a year, maybe 8 months of each other. And my uncle, he was a preacher, and he reached out to him several times trying to get them to take on Christ, and neither one of them chose to. So Dad grew up going to church, and Mom, I don't know exactly when, she became a Christian after she married Dad. Dad had a big family as well. A lot of the other guys have shown that their families were big, but Dad had 7 brothers, and he had 1 sister. And there are only 3 brothers alive right now. Dad's the oldest, so that sort of hit him hard. That, you know, he's the oldest, and he only has 2 more siblings left. They all became Christians early in their lives, except the youngest, Uncle Raymond. He became a follower in his 60s. And my only aunt, she was a lot like my grandmother. She was kind, she was gentle, she always had a smile, and she could cook some chicken, cook some oats. They had a fig tree in their yard, and she made the best jam. But you know, the men in this picture, the Hatcher men, have always had a lot of pride and a temper that was pretty much passed on to most of the kids. So, I don't know if that's hereditary or if it's just by example. I don't blame him for it because I took it on my own, but I mean, that's something I fought with, my whole life is pride. That's one of the things that God knew had to be taken before I could ever become a shepherd. And it took 62 years. And I still fight with it. I'm not saying it's gone, but I mean, my temper and the pride, I think Teresa can tell you, has come a long way since we got married. Because as much as I didn't want to do what my dad did, I still did it. I mean, that's what you just want to ask yourself why. I mean, so he was quick to discipline. He was very authoritarian, and it was very much his way or the highway. I mean, you didn't argue with him, you didn't disagree with him, and that didn't sit very well with me. I was a rebel. I wanted to rebel, and the fact that he was always telling me I had to do this and I had to do that, he never gave me no explanation for it. It's because I said so. That just didn't sit well with me. There's a story that I tend to be a little sarcastic sometimes. I was probably 9 or 10. We had big pine trees in our front yard, and I guess Dad was trying to make us appreciate the labor. And so we were out there raking. The thing is, there was really no pine straw out there. So, smart me said, "Yeah, let's rake up all this pine straw that's out here." But Daddy, that was the wrong thing. He took me inside. He whipped me with a belt. And to this day, that he feels guilty for that more than anything else because it was abuse. just, it all started with me because, I was rebelling against what he wanted me to do. So I take responsibility for it too. But between between my dad and all my uncles and all my cousins, as far as I know, there's been only one other man that has been an elder in the Lord's church. And I don't say that, to pat myself on the back. I say it because, some of these guys just don't realize how fortunate they are to have had a father and even grandfathers that were shepherds that I know that's the biggest thing that they probably miss right now is they're not able to go talk to their dad about certain issues that they're dealing with and how he would handle it. But I had nothing like that when I became an elder. So I ask for apologies from a lot of these guys that, if I'm saying or doing something I shouldn't do, but I'm just following the Spirit because I didn't have any example. But the family was so large that for a lot of years we had worship there at the camp facility. And one Sunday morning, we had cabins and we'd walk a short distance to the cafeteria area where we'd have worship. And Teresa and I would always, usually we'd have a plan where we'd be going to Panama City with the family after worship on that Sunday. So me and Mama, we were walking over there, and I had shorts on. Mama looked at me. She had this look on her face. She said, "Are you going to go to worship dressed like that?" Rebelled. I said, "Mama," I said, "you better be glad I'm even going." But my brothers, they all had, they always had their pants and their shirts, and all the women had their dresses on, and I just always ask why. Why do you have to do it this way? Why is it, you can't wear shorts? To worship in Florida where it's 115 degree weather. So that's just one of the stories, and I'll tell you plenty more that just sort of accumulated over the years. I was born in Duluth, Georgia, on November 3rd, 1958. This was my first Christmas. And if you look real close in both those pictures, you'll see a handbook that they received and give them instructions how to raise a black sheep and a rebel. They didn't have a clue what they were about to have to learn how to do. It wasn't easy. But around the age of 7 or 8, I'm not proud of this, but I told the girl, the friend across the street, I told her that since she wasn't a member of the Church of Christ, she was going to hell. Well, you know what she did? She went and told her mother. Her mother called my mother. And I remember getting in trouble, but I don't remember what was said. But I keep questioning why at the age of 7 or 8, where would a 7 or 8-year-old come up with that thought? Was it something that Mom or Dad said, or was it something that I observed, like, the one in church while I was going? I don't know. But that's always bothered me that, I actually said that to somebody. And I guess it's something that I'll never forget. But it was just the beginning of the questions that that I was asking about a lot of things around the church. It seemed that the thinking was that we had all the right answers and they didn't. That's not right. I was 12. I was at a gospel meeting with Mid McKnight. Anybody ever heard of Mid McKnight? Okay. And after the 8th verse, just as I am, I was on the back row, some of my friends, and I stepped out, I walked down, and I became baptized. Why? Age accountability. I was 12. And I was doing it to please my mom and dad. For the wrong reasons. I remember coming up out of the water and feeling that, I was clean again. But I don't think I really grasped what it was. And I don't remember having all the conversations with my mom and dad about, becoming a Christian. And I'm embarrassed and hate to say this, but, Kerwin, several of them can tell you the date they were baptized. I don't remember the exact date. I just remember I was 12. So, again, I don't say all these things to, because I'm not proud. I'm not proud of them, but it's just part of what I dealt with growing up. I know I was the cover boy for Dutch Boy, did you? I never realized that somebody told me that once. I looked up and realized that kid had a cut just like I had. There were a lot of arguments between me and my dad about that hair. I'm sure I see some shaking of heads. But again, the question I would ask myself, I wouldn't say it to him because I knew what it would create. But I asked myself, why is that such a big deal? I mean, why are you making such a big deal about how long my hair is? So, I'll tell you about some more discussions Dad and I had. We've never been able to communicate well about spiritual things. But I wanted to go to Alabama Christian there in Montgomery because that's where some of my friends were going. So Mom and Dad found a way to send me there. And, not all of my friends were members of the Church of Christ. And there would be times when I would ask Mom or Dad, can I go to church with so-and-so? And they would tell me, you can go to church with them as long as you go to our church first. So I'd go to our church first. Didn't want to be there. As soon as amen was said, I'd get up and drive to my friend's church. And of course, my friends would say, what is wrong with my church? I really couldn't give them an answer because I really didn't know. I wanted to know, but how was I going to know if I never went to their church to see what they did? So again, that was just one rule I had, good or bad. Then when I turned 16 to start driving, I did the unthinkable. I left the church Mom and Dad were at with the Landmark. Daddy didn't like it because at that time Gary Bradley was preaching at Landmark, and so they weren't doing all the things they're doing now. But I don't think there's anything wrong with what they're doing now. But me and Dad will never have that discussion. But the church where Dad went to, that church was the place where I needed to be. So what did I do? I went to Landmark. And me and Dad would argue about it sometimes, but I just felt a difference over there. I mean, the people seemed like they welcomed me better. I mean, they didn't seem so judgmental. I mean, even today, unfortunately, the church I grew up in, it's just, I'll tell you some more about that in a minute, but there was a lot of judgmental things that went on there. So I graduated, went to Auburn University, Montgomery. After 2 or 3 quarters, I was put on academic suspension because I was working full time and taking a full time load. But actually, I think it was God orchestrating and opening doors because for some reason I don't remember why. for some reason, after that, during that sitting at home process, being on suspension, I decided I wanted to go to Livingston. Again, Mom and Dad found a way to send me here. You know, one thing I'm learning through all this, that no matter what I did, how I rebelled, they still tried to do their best to take care of me. And that's God too. No matter what we do to rebel, He still tries to take care of us. But you know, church to me at that time was about where the food was and a place to take a date. That's what church, but the most important thing, I was able to tell my parents that I went. So, you know, I was again doing it for all the wrong reasons. Just still wondering. So I graduated in '81. Took a job as assistant manager. I don't know if you remember these foot scene shoe stores. 100 Oaks. And I lived on that side of town over there until God moved me over to Hickory Woods Apartments, which I don't know if they call it Hickory Woods anymore, but down the road here, right by Barbecue. And that was in 1982. And that's when I started going to church at Tuscany. So pretty much my adult life has been here. I've matured here. Now, talk about a roller coaster of romance. If you ever want to hear something, just take Teresa out for coffee sometime, and you will get your ear full about the romance on mine. Because again, it was all about me. You know, and it was around, I guess it was 1983 when I noticed this young lady walking into church one day. I remember walking Old Tuscany, walking through one of the doors, and I remember seeing her before. And so we started dating off and on, and it was off and on for several years. I don't know how she kept putting up with it. But it was around the summer of 1985. I was supposed to meet her down in Florida for vacation. And I think I was supposed to go down there on Monday. And Tammy called her on Sunday and says, Teresa, I don't think Rick's going to be coming to Florida. He's got engaged. Look at his eyes wide. So anyway, you know, I ruined Teresa's vacation. She cried the whole week. So she tells me. I mean, not even mean it that way. She told me that. I wasn't there, so I didn't know. But they came back on Sunday. Guess who was sitting in the swing there in their front yard? Me. And I'm surprised her father just didn't take out a shotgun and just blow me away. But you know, I knew that there was a friendship there that I just could not see letting go. I mean, you know, how many times you get engaged on a weekend, you know, on that same weekend on Sunday, you're sitting in her front yard waiting for her to get home from Panama City. You know, it was God working. But you notice there's a little 3-4-year-old boy up there. That scared me to death. I mean, you know, back then, you know, being divorced wasn't something that you just, you know, told everybody about. And so my thinking was, how in the world can I marry her with a 3-year-old child? Like, what in the world will my parents and my family say? I mean, there's that, you know, that rigid mentality again. So I talked to a minister, about the situation, and this is what he told me. He said, if one marries who did not have scriptural grounds, then to get right with God, they would have to leave the one that they married and go back to the prior marriage partner or remain unmarried. That just, that rebel flag just went up to me. I couldn't understand it. How could you break a covenant, repent of it, and then you have to break another covenant to make the first covenant right? I mean, it was just so confusing to me. So that just threw another wrench in my thinking, my fear of marrying. So I called a past minister, Frank Ford. I don't know if some of you guys probably remember him. And I talked to him, and he said, Rick, he said she had given him every chance, and he kept committing adultery. So, okay, she had spirit. I know she knew she had spiritual grounds, but I still didn't take the fear out of what my parents and my family would think. So finally, now let me tell you this story. I kept running back and forth, in and out. And so I think finally she got tired of it. She found somebody. So one night, I snuck in her backyard. I was hiding back in the yard. And I thought I heard somebody coming out. And so I took off. Y'all remember there used to be clotheslines that we used to hang clothes on? I didn't see it. It hit me right here and I landed flat on my back. I mean, I was running full speed. So, finally she just, I bought roses and flowers and the ring. And she had the courage, after all I did, to take the chance with me. So we got married on May 24th, 1986. I adopted Dallas 6 months after we got married. His dad just signed him over. I chose to adopt him. I have a lot of. When we talk about being adopted by God, I can really relate to that because Dallas didn't get his choice. His dad left him, so I adopted him. But the first year was the hardest, I think, one of the hardest. You talking about a 28-year-old man that was very prideful, very selfish. That all of a sudden was responsible, for a wife and a 5-year-old child. That 5-year-old child, he wanted to come in there and get in bed with her, and my little old temper just kicked right on up. So, and there was one time when I said, why don't we just get a divorce? That's the only time in 36 years I've ever said that. And I said I'd never use that word again. So, but there was an event that changed both of our lives. It was 1998, I think, at Winter Fest. Jeff Walling, he's an unbelievable speaker. He has the ability to be able to speak to your heart in such simple terms. He spoke that weekend on grace. Teresa had dealt with an issue that she felt totally, just tremendously guilty for 22 years. And at that time, I was struggling with an issue, which I'll go in a minute. I won't go her. I'll let her do that if she wants to. Some of you know anyway. But she just broke down. And after it was over with, we made a point to go behind the stage and find Jeff Walling. And she hugged his neck and just poured tears on his shoulder and thanked him for letting her know, helping her to know what the grace of God really was. she now knew that she would be going to heaven. And that night, we met the kids. She revealed what she had struggled with. I revealed that at that time I was struggling with pornography. And there was somebody that came to me before I became a shepherd and said, "I need to talk to you." And they said, "It's always bothered me that you chose to reveal that at that time. It was just the wrong place at the wrong time." And I said, "What?" Guys, today the average age for a child to be looking at pornography is 8 years old. And if I can't reveal that I dealt with it at one time, and they can't know there's somebody they can go to that's dealt with it and help them. Where are they going to get their help from? And we know for a fact that there's one life here today that wouldn't have been here if we hadn't revealed the struggles that we had. We know that. So it was worth that one life to reveal our blackness. There are just certain sins that you won't make known. At one time it used to be this way: depression, pornography, divorce, abortion. But I think we've gotten to the place where people feel they can reveal those things, and we're not going to shun them. I think Tuscaloosa is a place where that can happen. I'm thankful for that. So this is Dallas. He's a big boy on the right there. And the reason I got this picture here, because when he was 10 years old, I was assistant coach, and he won the 10-year-old state Babe championship. But I show that because when he was about 11 years old, his dad decided he was going to come back into his life. One day we were at a baseball game, and we saw his dad sitting in a chair. And at first it bothered me, but then I realized that Dallas needs to know this man. And so nothing was said. He came to me in all the games we wanted, and we became friends. His wife passed away several years ago, and he asked me to speak at the funeral. And Kenny and his wife and his son, when we go to Florida on vacations, they come too. People, I ain't gonna tell how many times we've had people ask, "How can y'all do that?" Just through Christ. Kenny lost his only son about 3 years ago. He died of overdose of fentanyl-laced heroin or something. Kenny's not doing well now. I'll be surprised he makes it through this year. But Dallas, Dallas to this day, when me and Kenny are together, he calls Kenny, and he calls me Dad. So it was just, I'm just so thankful that God helped me to show my grace and not show my pride or my temper. That may have been one of the turning points in my life right there. I never really thought about that. But Dallas, he just turned 40. He's a teacher over at Cambridge. He's the head baseball coach over there. And something happened this year that the picture of that memory will be in my mind forever. We were over at Stewart's Creek High School. Dallas Cambridge plays Stewart's Creek, and they were playing on Stewart's Creek. And Brooklyn, which is the oldest granddaughter, and Bronx, which is the only grandson, they came, sat in the dugout over there. So when the game was over, I said, come on guys, we'll go ahead and go. So we walked behind the stands. The dugout was over here. We walked behind the stands. We were walking past the stands, and all of a sudden, I hear somebody say, Brooklyn! Brooklyn thought it too. We thought it was one of our high school friends that was there calling out to her. But we looked, and Dallas was standing at the fence. And he said, y'all come here. He said, are y'all just gonna leave without me able to tell you goodbye and I love you? I mean, that just, a grown man that would just, make a point to walk all the way across that field and stand at that fence and get his grandchildren to come over there. That's just a vision I'll never forget. He is an unbelievable father. We've always had a good relationship. He's not rebelling now. He's just out there away from the church right now, away from Christ. And we keep praying. And God keeps showing us things to let us know that I'm in control. I've got this. Then there's Tyler. I think a lot of people know Tyler. Tyler's kind of hard to go. There's an image that I see of him once that's changed my life about some things. That when I think it was maybe his first or second year camp, Bible camp. Tyler's got ADD. And people with ADD, they tend to be able to relate to their older people than their own peers. So we were Teresa and I were sitting there, and we saw him just sitting out there playing in the sand by himself. Nobody, he was friends with nobody, and that just broke my heart. It broke our hearts. But what it did, from that point forward, it made me feel, have a feeling for people that didn't seem like they fit in. Tyler struggled with it all his life. I say Tyler is one of the reasons, that I'll go to heaven, because he's humbled me so many times because of the struggles that he has because of his ADD. But one thing that I'm just so proud about is, he started working at Publix at about 18. And just this past year, he's 33, 34. Just this past year, he quit, and he's laying pipes now for a gas line company. And he said, Dad, I just want to do something different. I want to try something different. This guy, in all his years of work, he probably has not missed that many days of work in all his years of work from 18 to 34. He is the most dedicated employee I've ever seen in my life. How many people can say they've only missed 5 days of work in 24, 26 years? So, his work ethic is, him and Dallas both, they're tremendous, they tremendously add to society. This one, I think you're right. I guess it was Mother's Day. Teresa was taking a picture, and me and Tyler are always acting goofy. So, on the left, we're acting goofy, and Teresa said, why don't y'all just relax? Well, that's what we did. And we both did it at the same time. We just relaxed. So, he's a joy to be around. Then we've got our grandchildren. Brooklyn, she's just turned 15, just got a learner's permit. She's in the middle. Bronx is 12. Teresa, Bronx is 12. And Brighton is 10. Will be in August. But you're looking at 3 kids that have never gone to a Bible camp. You're looking at 3 kids that they've probably been to Bible class, a handful of times in their whole life. So there's been a lot of praying going on mean, the Spirit just works again. I mean, there was a time when I asked the Spirit, I said, just give me some sign that, the Father's still taking, the Lord's taking care of him. And I may have told y'all this on one of the shepherd's voices, but I got a text one morning from Bronx. This is last February. And it was, for God so loved the world that gave his only begotten Son. And I looked at the time date on it, and it was 1:28 in the morning. And I didn't know the boy had a Bible. I mean, he had a Bible, but I didn't know he still had a room. So I asked him, I said, Bronx, why in the world made you get up at 1:30 in the morning and start reading the Bible? He said, I don't know, Pop. He said, I just did it. I said, how did you get that scripture? He said, I don't know, I just opened the Bible, and that was the first one I looked at. So that gave us encouragement. Brooklyn, we were at Paul's, at Tracy's funeral, and I get this text about 10:47, 10 minutes before the funeral was to start, and she said, hey, Poppy, I'm kind of stressed out about some stuff right now. Will you please pray for me whenever you can? I said, I just did. I'm about to go through a funeral. When I get home, I will pray more fervently. It touches my heart deeply that you would reach out to me to go to Jesus for you. He will hear you. And so I loved her so much. She said, thank you. And she said, I'm sorry to hear that. I knew I needed to go to you. I just feel out of touch with God. And I really want to fix that. I've been praying a lot recently, and I want to get back in the habit. Anyways, I've just been stressing over a bunch of things recently, so I just wanted your help. Thank you. I love you so much. I told her that God's always near. Jesus' heart aches to have a closer and personal relationship with you. I told her prayers didn't have to be long or done in certain ways, just communication with God. And I told her I prayed every morning for them. And I prayed for the ones that they were married, that they would be Christ followers. She said, thank you, Poppy. I want to have something just like you and Gammy have one day. I look up to you guys. I'm trying to continue to try my hardest to be the best version of myself I can be. I want to build a stronger connection with God. Where in the world did that come from? That was God. That was the Spirit, number one, moving her, but letting us know that God is still in control of our grandchildren. And Saturday night, when we were doing Mother's Day, I felt a tap on my shoulder, and I turned around and Miss Brooklyn, she said, Poppy, she said, can I spend the night with y'all and go to church with you in the morning? And last time they were at church with us, Teresa had to take them out and take them home. Because, they just didn't know how to act. And they spent another night with us one Saturday night in Dallas, and, I'll pick them up in the morning, and, there may be some that think, if they're going to spend the night with you on Saturday night, they got to go to church with you. Well, I'm not going to force them to go. Because I believe if we forced them to go, the Brooklyn man tapped me on the shoulder that day and said, Poppy, can I go to church with you in the morning? And she also wanted her boyfriend to go, so we went and picked him up. So I say that to say that, all that to say is that, whenever, if you're dealing with people, the prodigal sons, people, kids that are not Christians, don't give up. God's in control. Brighton, she's always the sweetest thing. This is my favorite picture of her. She does gymnastics, and before one of her events, she wanted me to pray for her. And Teresa took the picture. I didn't know she was there, and so I framed it because it's just another reminder to me that God's in control of our grandkids. So we were just, both of us, just two lonely people looking for an anchor in our lives. And God blessed us with each other. I wouldn't be where I'm at today if it wasn't for her. my study life now is what it is because of her. Several years ago, I'd study a little, but every morning I come down, I see her, studying and typing in stuff on a Facebook page, devotionals and things. And it hit me, you watch it as much as you do it. So today, I have to get up 2 hours early. Not today. Today I got up at 4 o'clock because I had to be at work at 6. But I always have to get up 2 hours earlier so that's when I do my study time. And I think that's where my relationship with Christ is just really deep. And so, she's always been one that tells me, that ain't right. She's my rock. So, my faith journey. I lived in the house. I lived in the house of rules. My mom was a mom who took good care of us and always made sure that we had enough to eat. She always did as Dad said and never questioned. That is the way it was. Always was, and it's the way it is today. One thing I'll never forget. One time we were dinner or something. Daddy needs some more water or some more tea. So he raised his glass and shook his eyes. Rebel me, I didn't say anything because I didn't want to create anything. But I love my dad. There's just some things about him that I don't want to be like. And I worked hard to try to, but my sons would never want to say that. But I grew up in a church that was very judgmental, very rigid. Their order of worship, the way they do things today is the same way it was whenever I was there, 16, 15 years old. But there were several instances that just really tested me. We were there one Sunday morning, and the preacher's daughter came forward. She was crying. And we watched him. He stood up there until the song finished. And her mother didn't go up there with him. She sat 2 rows back. And he comes down there and talks to her. He never put his arm around her. And then he got up and said that she'd done something wrong, and he didn't reveal what it was, and he asked somebody to pray, and he sat down on the upper end. She was on this end, he sat on the other end. And that just flew all over me. That's not what happened. Well, I guess that is what kept us from ever going there again. There was one Sunday we went there for Christmas, and he preached on Christmas story, and he sort of made fun of the people that put mangers out. He called them, mostly it's just poor people. And so we get home, we're eating lunch, and Dad says, "Well, Rick, what do you think about the sermon today?" Teresa was already kicking me. I said, "Well, Dad," I said, I'll say this. If I was a visitor that walked in there that morning, I wouldn't be back." And you could heard a pin drop at the table. But ever since then, we make sure that we come back on Saturday now. We don't stay to go to the church anymore. It's just not a place I want to be. To me, it's just not a happy, loving, non-judgmental place. And so, I growing up, so many things happened. I really became turned off by religion. I did it because I knew I had to do it. I had to please my parents. My dad, we had a discussion once, and it's our last discussion of spiritual things. talking about, I forget what we were talking about. He said, y'all probably pray over babies, don't you? I said, yeah, Dad. I said, we do. And he said, we hear nothing but one over those. I got up and walked away, and we haven't been able to talk Scripture spiritually since then. I mean, it's just, and that I guess I grew up around all that like that. And I guess that's why I push back so easily now when traditions are rules, you know, that don't really mean anything as far as eternity goes, keep people from getting to Jesus Christ. You know, I think the change really happened about 6 years ago. Teresa and I left us. You know, Teresa's gone. She grew up here. She's been here since all along. And I'd been here for 36 years when we were, and so we were gone for about 6 months. And again, it was selfishness. It was pride. Things were going the way I wanted it, going the way she wanted it. But there came a point where we just sort of, it's almost like we looked in the mirror and we said, why hasn't anybody reached out to us? And, you know, I said, Teresa, I said, no, if we've been doing anything that was supporting and giving in that church, we would have been missed. You know, the problem's us, it's not them. So we came back, and I started dealing with men's ministry, and I started selfishly serving, and that's when my life really changed. So it's just amazing. God has just always been there. I mean, there's just so many things that could have happened in my life that if God hadn't been in control, I would be sitting here right now. But in conclusion, and I was worried about this. You know, the challenge I want to place for us is just accept and love people where they are and let our evangelism start there. When Jesus said, go and make disciples, he didn't say go make converts to your own thoughts and your opinions. I really don't think Jesus cared about religion. I think he cared about meeting people where they were, and developing a relationship with them, and gently steering them to his way. And you know, let's not let our knowledge replace compassion. That's the strongest beef I think Jesus had with the Pharisees, is that you know they had all this knowledge, but they had no compassion at all for their fellow Christians. I mean, they made it harder to get to Christ than they should have, because they thought they knew everything, and they thought everybody should know as much as they know. That's just not the way it works. I mean, we're in a society now that, you know, we're in a post-Christian society where the average person now is not even, you used to be able to start with the Bible. But now you can't even start with Jesus, because the majority of the people, younger generation now, they don't even know who Christ is. So you got to establish that. We have to establish a relationship before we ever start. I mean, Jesus knew God better than anybody. And he didn't start with, you know, strong over-the-head scriptures. He started with a relationship, and then he weaved that into his relationship and brought them into his way. You know, let's not let rules and tradition replace relationships, and let's recognize the value of good wilderness experience. You know, Oswald Chambers this morning, in his devotion, he said, "We are not meant to be seen as God's perfect, bright, shining examples, but to be seen as the everyday essence of ordinary life, exhibiting the miracle of his grace." I'm thankful for the grace of God. so many times, we think, well, I developed I found out how to have a relationship with Christ versus, checking the boxes and obeying all the rules. And, so many times we think, well, dang it, you're 60 years old, it doesn't make any difference anymore. Yes, it does. I mean, Teresa posted something the other day that said, remember, it is never too late to be what you might have been. So, I want to end in prayer. Thank you for your attention. Father, I thank you for this night. And God, this has been a very unbelievable, deep experience for me, God, to have to think back on all these things. God, so many times I tried to figure out why, I do the things I do and why I feel so strong about some things the way I do. But God, it's just because of the way I dealt with life growing up. And God, I thank you for those that listened here. And I just pray, Father, that the revealing of my testimony about my life, which has so many black moments in it, if it just helps one person to God to realize that the wilderness experiences to God will end. But it's just like the nobleman that asked you to heal his son. He said it has been done, and we forget the man had to walk 22 miles back to his home. So in those 22 miles, he had to believe that on the other side of that wilderness trek, that your promise was going to be fulfilled. And God, those of us that have those that we love that are not with Christ the way they should be, I pray that the Spirit would continue to work on those people. And God, thank you for giving us this little behind the scenes looks that you are working. And God, we praise you for that. I pray that, Father, you continue to be with this church and that we will continue to love. And God, we're surrounded by demographically 40-year-olds and below. And God, help us to find a way, God, to reach those people. God, it may mean giving up some of our traditions, because these people just don't know Christ, they don't know church. God, I just pray that you will help us to love people where they are, and that people will see Christ living through us.